Hey, Brad.
Hey, Steve, how are you?
Where are you?
At home in Norwood, Ontario, Canada.
So I'm up here in Montreal. We're just starting to warm up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's been a long winter, man.
It's been a long winter and it's been a long few years, right?
Oh, absolutely. And that's just it. I'm excited for this summer just to be normal and get outside and travel and yeah, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got a lot to be excited about. Another new album, Explosions, coming in May. Now I have to talk to you about this 3-year cycle that you've broken.
Oh, I know.
Is there a reason for the 3-year cycle being broken? Like, just to explain to anybody who doesn't know, every album so far up until this point has come out pretty regularly on 3 years.
Yeah.
It's going to be 4 years since your last album.
Absolutely. Yeah. We ended our touring cycle for Outsider in December 2019. With the idea of, we'll take a little time and we'll write a bit and then, we'll get back out for 3 years. And obviously, COVID hit in March and yeah, it was tough. Like, I was thinking back to like, just our writing process was different. And, we were on Zoom every day, but Zoom is, as you know, can be great or cannot be great. So it's,
yeah,
it was tough. Like we had to learn how to write like this. And, obviously there's there's some new technologies that you can actually stream live. So I could sit here and play bass and you could listen as I'm playing and it's very clear. So we were able to like record that way and do our demos that way. And it turned out great, but it just took a little longer. And, I think we could have probably tried to get out last year, but I mean, it was pointless. Things were still not normal. And so that's kind of the reason. But yeah, we broke the cycle. So hopefully that's a good thing.
yeah. Well, at least everybody's not just like waiting for you every 3 years now. The pressure's off a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. That's absolutely.
So writing in that way, kind of remotely to an extent, has that changed the way you actually put the songs together, do you feel?
A little bit. Like, obviously we can put a song together, the core of it, but as far as like the jamming part, right? Like, because we're so used to sitting, like we'd sit in my rehearsal space out here and we jam, right? Like, Barry would be tinkering on the guitar and oh, that's a cool part. Oh, that's a cool part. What if we took that and put it here? And it's just a constant vibe, right? And so Zoom is like, we wrote the song and it's like, okay, there's the song, go write your parts. So that was different, right? We've never done it that way. And in a way it was cool because I think we spent more time on the music than we have in the past, if that makes sense, I think just having so much time with the song, I would sit and play and try to think of parts. And, I think when we all came to the table, we recorded 8 songs without being in the same room. So Neil went to the studio by himself. I went to another studio by myself, and we just kept sending the parts around. So like when I heard Neil's drum parts, this is the first time I've heard them. So then I would try to go back in my bass, well, I had this and I had this little thing and piece it all together. So it was weird. It was definitely weird, but in the end, it all worked out and we were able to do it that way. And it's something that I hope we never have to do again, but it was cool. We made it happen.
Have you got to play all these songs in a room together now?
No.
Wow.
We're doing that in the next couple of weeks. So like So-Called Life, we at the video, I guess that's the only time we've ever seen each other. Let's go shoot a video. But yeah, we've never actually, that's the thing, like we did it all remotely. So a lot of these songs we've never even jammed, so it'll be exciting. It's like starting over, and we've got rehearsals coming up in Toronto and that'll be fun. It'll be fun to see everybody and get back to normal. Yeah.
Yeah. So you touched on So-Called Life, and since then we've had New Attic. Are these 2 songs, do they give a flavor of what's to come on the album?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think, there's a lot of heavier songs on this record and some of the heaviest we've ever written. And, but there's also a lot of mid-tempo, which kind of reminds me of our older stuff where it's just very mid and just driving, and Neurotic's a good example of that, you know, and and some great slower tracks, and there's a lot of good emotions on this record. So I'm excited for the fans to hear it. You know?
Yeah. So I feel obviously you guys have been around for a long time now, and I feel like every album there's something that you've tried on that album that you haven't tried before. Mm. What is there on this album that is something new for you?
I think with this one, we, well, again, obviously, I think we spent a lot of time on the music, you know, and I think just for the reason that we weren't together. So we had a lot of parts, and, you know, when we started to put it all together, we actually had too much. We were like, there's too much stuff going on. So we actually had to scale back a bit and just like, let's cut that out. Let's cut that. We ended up putting a lot of cool, programming, like not programming, but like, we love the sound of like analog, you know, and I don't know if you've ever seen an analog programmer, but they would have like it looks like a switchboard behind them, like an old telephone switchboard where they're just patching in, you know, cool analog synths. And we messed around with that a lot, and I think it just gave a really cool, warm texture to it, but also made it a newer kind of vibe, with the atmospheric kind of vibe. So yeah, you know, and there's some songs in there where you know, we go a little more electronic, and there's songs there where we're just, again, heavy and more metal. So, you know, it's just different. And but I think it's a good different. I think fans are gonna love it.
Yeah. Do you remember like a catalyst moment for this album where you came up with something that you were like, this is the route we want to go down?
Yeah, well, I think you know, obviously, well, So-Called Life was actually the first song we wrote, and that was the first song like we started. It was about March, well, I want to say March 20 something, 2020, and we were still kind of meeting, but then we're like, oh man, we can't meet anymore. So I think, you know, that getting that first bit in there, and we're like, oh, this is a great vibe. I think that kind of set the tone. We went on to write another song after that called I Am the Weapon. And it's just heavy, and it's something we've never done. It's just constant riffs and the you know, and again, that set the tone. And it was weird because through the year, like it took us a good year to write it. We would go through spurts of writing heavy songs, and then we would go through spurts of writing ballads. And it was just, I think we just kind of took the moment and felt what was going around us and just went with it. So yeah, it was definitely interesting.
Yeah. So I know there's heavier parts to this album. We've already heard some of those. And then you mentioned the ballads. Now, these days, a lot of people, the way they listen to music has changed a lot from when you guys began. Mm-hmm. It used to be you buy a CD or you buy a vinyl, and then you go and put it on and you listen to it front to back.
Yeah.
A lot of the time that doesn't happen these days. So when people are listening to this album, they might be kind of jumping around. They might put it on shuffle.
Yeah.
How much time do you now spend on the sequencing? Is it still important to you?
It is still important, you know, and I've always kind of taken that on. I don't know why, but, you know, I think especially now with like vinyl is such a big thing now. Like it's come back. Kids are buying vinyl and people love vinyl. So I love the idea of thinking of like an A-side, B-side, you know, and with this record, we definitely made the A-side a little heavier than the B-side, but it was kind of on purpose, you know, because it's a moment, you know, where you flip that record. It's a whole nother, you know, feeling. So it's important to us. I think we still consider albums as art, you know, as a piece of art, even though streaming is a free for all. But it's funny. The other day I got a new CD in and I handed it to my buddy. I was like, check this out. And he's like, I don't have a CD player. Like, what am I going to do with this? He had a vinyl player. He had a record player. So yeah, times are changing, but sequence is important. I think I always spend a lot of time thinking about that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, am I right in saying it's going to be 25 years of the band this year?
Yeah, 25 years, man. Yeah.
Is that something you're going to celebrate, or are you not really that nostalgic?
I haven't. It's funny that got brought up earlier, and I forgot. Isn't that wild? It's 25 years. We got to do something. Yeah, maybe a big party. I don't know.
Yeah, a big hometown show.
Yeah, well, yeah, we were actually talking about that. We haven't played in. We live just outside of Peterborough, Ontario, and we haven't played Peterborough in forever. It's been a decade at least. So maybe that's the party. I don't know, but yeah, it's funny because we don't look back that often. We just keep going forward, and just I think we'll do that until we stop, and then we'll sit down and go, "Whoa, that was crazy."
So speaking about you specifically, what was the album or the band that kind of changed the way you thought about music when you were growing up? Like from being something on the radio to being something that was much more important?
I think, like I started listening to music at an early age. Like, I'm dating myself, but I remember ordering like Columbia House, where you would get the 12 cassettes for a cent or whatever. I remember I was 6 years old, and but I think it wasn't until the 90s when the grunge era hit, and we were 15, 16, and it was so cool. And we would literally sit there and record like a radio program. Like in Peterborough, it was the alternate route, and it was an hour-long program. It would play all the new songs of the 90s, Nirvana and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains, and you'd sit there and try to learn how to play it. And I think it wasn't until then where we're like, man, this is like just the heaviness of it, and the push and the pull, and I think that's where we kind of learned, how to write songs, and it changed the way I think we just looked at music. So yeah, I'd say that was the era. I think obviously, Nirvana was massive. Like, I was, well, as everyone was, I was into Poison and Warrant and, all these hair metal. And then overnight, you're like, like it's over,
Yeah.
And I think that's growing up through that era, that was a life-changing event, that record,
Yeah. So when you started playing yourself, were there albums that you would play along with when you were learning?
Absolutely, yeah. We we tried to play all, but like we started out like as a cover band. So Adam, Neil, and I would go, and and Phil Crow was in the band still, and we go and play gigs up north, like Bracebridge, Huntsville, Ontario, on the weekends as what we called ourselves the Jupiter Effect, and we'd go up and we'd play 3 hours of covers. And we'd play all the hits, and all the grunge stuff, and Nirvana and Soundgarden, and a lot of Pearl Jam, and so I don't know, man. I think we just tried to play. I think that's how we learned, right? We tried to play other people's songs, and I think naturally we evolved into that, right? So
yeah, I think sometimes people look down on bands that started out as cover bands, but they forget that the Beatles started out as a cover band. So.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you learn your craft.
Changing music.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And what about new bands? Like, you've got some pretty exciting bands going on the road with you now. Mm-hmm. And bands that put on a show, so they're going to keep you on your toes. Do you pay attention? Do you pay attention to new music? And
yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of up and coming bands, like Wage War and Ice Nine Kills and all these, I Prevail, and there's a new wave of modern rock coming out, and it's pretty cool. It's heavy and it's different, and they're doing great, and it's cool to watch that. And I think it's moving in the right direction. They're all guitar heavy bands, and they put on a great show, and that's what music's about, right? So it'll keep us on our toes for sure, but we got a few hits in our pocket, so we'll be all right.
Yeah, I'd say that for sure. And you've got so many hits now, do you always try and cram them into a set, or do you feel confident enough to leave some of them out?
It's getting harder. I'm not going to lie. Like, I was just talking to Matt earlier today about the set list, and I'm like, can you sing for 2 hours? Like, like how about 2.5? Like, we need to fit, because there's songs like we have to play, like, we always play Hate, we always play Animal, there's just songs that's hard to leave them out. But so obviously we'll have to take some out to play some new songs, but we try to keep it as fresh as we can. But when I go see a band and they don't play one of my favorite hits, I'm like, damn, I wanted to hear that song. So you got to remember that like when people show up to a concert, they're there to have a good time, and it's a party, and it's not about me really, it's not what I want to do. It's what you want, you want to deliver the goods. So it's important to play those songs, and I think we'll have to do that forever. But I'm excited to play these new songs. Like I think So-Called Life is going to come off huge on stage, and it's going to be cool.
Yeah, for sure. That's an arena song right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of arenas, you have a tour plan that's going to be starting soon. How do you feel about getting back on the road, firstly?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. We have a bunch of shows in the States coming up in April with Godsmack and, kind of big festival vibes, and some arena shows and some big festival outdoor stuff and some headliners. So it's a variety, and it's going to be weird. I'm not going to lie. Like, I haven't been around that many people in the last couple of years. So it'll be great. I think the first couple of shows will be like, whoa. And then obviously we'll get into a groove, and I can't wait to see some people having fun, and I think I think this year will be big for that. And I think, with festivals and outdoor shows, I think people are just going to have a blast. And I hope it stays,
Yeah, me too. I want to wrap up with a little question that we like to throw at people. You've heard of fantasy football, I guess. Yes. I want to throw fantasy rock band at you. So if you can pick anybody living or dead for vocals, guitar, bass, the usual, who would you put together in your ideal lineup?
That's a hard question, man. Wow.
You don't have to think too much about it. The first ones that come to your head.
I'm trying to think. It's just such a hard one because there's so many. I'm a huge Doors fan growing up, so I'm going to go Jim Morrison. I love all the class. It's hard because there's so many. I'm going to do Jim Morrison on vocals. Should we make it weird or what? Like, I don't know, what direction do we go?
We can make it as weird as you like. I'm kind of down for weird.
I'm going to do, I love me some Pantera. So like Dimebag on guitar. Can
wow.
You do that?
I'm trying to see Dimebag and Jim Morrison on stage together. That'd be interesting.
Oh God, no, that's the problem. Okay, let's get a living number. Let's do, I want to play bass. Can I play bass?
That's fine. Yeah, you can play bass. You're going to be surrounded by your heroes.
Yeah, exactly. I'm trying to think of a drummer. Wow, let's honor Taylor. Let's honor Taylor.
Nice.
That's a good band. Let's go.
Yeah. I'd be down for that. That'd be a cool band, and you definitely have fun.
Oh, absolutely. Might have to wait till I'm in heaven for that one, but you never know.
You never know. All right. Well, thanks very much for spending some time with me. Congratulations on the album. I'm excited to see you when you finally get to Montreal, I hope. I'm just looking forward to you and everybody else getting back out on stage and playing loud music to a room full of fans. So
I can't wait, man. And thank you for your support. Yeah, and we'll be there soon, hopefully.